Hey everybody! I am going to show you how to add cute little circles to a plain piece of fabric using a palm thimble, one of my favorite tools. This is eventually going to become this pouch, and what we're going to do is stitch. Okay, so I'm going to drop the camera down. All right, so what I did to prep is I cut out circles and kind of played around with the placement. Then I used a little bit of fabric glue to tack them down, and I also did some machine basting. Um, there's a little bit of rayon in this fabric, and I feel like the glue stick alone doesn't quite stay as stable as I like. The other thing you can do is just add one circle at a time. Another thing I did to make this easier, because of the length of fabric's about 22 inches, so it's kind of long, was I folded it and just used some safety pins so I don't have to constantly squish and release and flatten. All right, so I have a piece of sashiko thread and I have my long needle. You want a long needle if you're going to be using a palm thimble, because you're actually going to rest the needle, whoops, on the thimble. All right, and we're gonna do this circle right here. I also chalked some kind of guidelines. When you're stitching, you can just stay within the circle, you can go beyond the circle, it's sort of like up to you. And same with your stitch length. So I like to start kind of off to the edge a little bit. And I'm gonna bring my thread to the front, and I'm just going to take a couple of stitches, and then I'm going to kind of angle my needle over. You don't have to do this. You can take it all the way to the back and then bring it back up and through again, but I just do that because it's easy. And then, so just have to remember to show you this. So I have that there, and this takes a little while to get used to if you haven't used a palm thimble before. And I like the leather ones better than the metal ones, because they just they're more comfortable for me personally. So now for the second, I'm just gonna go in. All my stitches are around 1/4 of an inch. I don't really worry too much about my stitch lengths. I actually prefer if they're a little bit uneven, but again, that is your personal preference. Okay, and here's something I want to make sure I touch on. When you're just doing a few stitches at a time, it's less of a big deal, but as you start gathering more and more stitches, you do need to be careful of your tension. So that loop was like a little bit loose, so I'm just gonna pull on it. I don't want to pull this super tight. Like, you want there to be some slack, especially at the ends. So once you start gathering more stitches, a good thing to do is just to give it a little wiggle. All right, now I'm gonna go up onto here, and again, the needle is just resting there. I use these needle grabbers just because they help with hand fatigue, and they just, for me, they make it easier. I do a lot of sewing, so I find them really comfortable to wear. I tend to hold on to needles too tightly too, so okay, so I'm gonna grab a few past, so you can see that. And again, I'm just gonna angle my needle over, and just keep it on the front side of my work. I'm going to lay this flat, and I'm going to gently, sometimes it's easier to do this on a surface with a little more control of your tension, and then I'm just going to give that a little wiggle. And again, we're just going to grab, and you'll see as we start grabbing more stitches why I love using a palm thimble so much, because they really do make quick work out of things. I'm going to go a little bit further on this one and back that up just a little bit. And I'm going to curve over. And gently pull. See, there's a little bit of loop there. I'm going to give that a wiggle. Another thing you can do is push your threads in the direction of your sewing. Slide over. Push. Can you hear that? It's because there's getting to be more and more fabric on there. And as I'm getting more stitches, I'm not really pulling the needle, I'm holding on to the needle and I'm pulling the fabric off of the needle and off of the thread. Gentle tug. Remember, don't tug that totally snug. Give a little room, a little wiggle, or a little push. And start again. And I'm going to go even a little bit further this time. I'm going to angle my needle over. You see how many stitches I've pulled there? Like that. Turn this around. Pull that off. Gently tug. And then I'm going to give it another little wiggle. See how things are going. And they're looking good. So, see? Just back and forth, back and forth. And you can do the same if you prefer using an embroidery hoop and not using a palm thimble. Of course, you can do the same exact thing. You just can't gather so many stitches all at once, which is pretty much here. I'll show you this way. All right, so here's the back, which you can also do it this way if you prefer to, oops, I pulled that. Okay, that was a good example. I pulled that a little too tightly. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put my finger right here and hold that. And then I'm going to pull this thread so we've got lots of slack. And then I'm just going to gently tug and pull some extra thread back this way because those threads were too tight. I'm going to give it a little tug and a little wiggle. And then I'm going to put my finger here because that is how I want that. And I'm just going to tug this very, very, very slightly. And I'm not going to worry that there's a little bit more of a loop right here. Right? Do you see there's like a little bit of a loop there? I'm just going to leave that because I know it will find its place. If your thread's a little bit loose, it's better than if it's a little bit too tight. Okay, back up to the front. And say you're sewing along. Generally, I wait to pull out my basting threads until after I'm completely finished, but I think I'm going to run out of thread shortly. So I'll show you how I quickly pick out my threads once I've come down to the end of. Okay, I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to just tug that a little bit. Do I have enough? I'll go a little bit further. I should really stop, but I know I can get a few more stitches, so I'll tack down that edge there, pop this through. Double check my front. Okay, I'm gonna pull this down just a little bit more. Yep, I like that. All right, take these off. Just give that a little knot. Clip that. And then now, when I want to remove my basting threads, I take the needle of the eye and I just flick them out. And then they're all gone. And I'm not going to worry about that edge that this one's not finished. It's stuck down enough now that it'll be easy enough for me to stitch over that, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, well, I hope you found that helpful. And yeah, it takes a little bit to get used to palm thimbles, but once you do, it's a really great way, especially when you're stitching on large pieces of fabric, but even small pieces of fabric. Makes your work quick, and it's easy on your hands. Yeah, and it's fun. Okay, and if you are looking for a palm thimble, I'll link one in the description of the box, in the box description. Okay, thank you everybody. See you later.